Come on, man. All right, there we go. All right, so first thing we're going to talk about is the Derek Chauvin trial with my brother George Floyd, who was murdered by Derek Chauvin some time back. So we are going to look into that. Now, first, I want to read a story. Then I'll lead into my thoughts about the trial and where I think everything is currently. Okay, so 'cause this is something that this story I'm going to read is something that I think we all can kind of chime in on and get a perspective, right? So, parents of students at a Texas high school were outraged to learn that their children watched live stream footage of the Derek Chauvin trial and were instructed to act as mock jurors for the trial as a part of the classroom assignment. Now, one parent complained, and this is in Cedar Hill Independent School District officials, and called it unfathomable that the assignment was given to the freshman students without parental consent. Now, as first reported by local station WFAA, the parents said the students at Cedar Hill High School, which have a student body of approximately 75% African American, were told by the teacher at the suburban Dallas school to watch footage of the trial in real time and comply with the judge's instructions and not speak to anyone about the trial for 6 weeks. Now, the teacher would go on to say they may not text, discuss what they hear with friends, siblings, relatives, or even their family dog. Parents say the teacher wrote in the reply about the rules of the assignment. The teacher has not been publicly identified. So, and again, I'm going to get into the Derek Chauvin trial, talk about our brother George Floyd, and some of the findings that have been brought forth so far. Now, how do you guys feel about that, family? If because for one, if I like the idea that a teacher would discuss real world issues opposed to some of the benign things that our kids learn in school. Some of it is great information and can cause you to become a critical thinker and just learn some good stuff. But some of it is completely fucking useless. We have to be honest about that, right? So if presenting this to children, I think will give them an opportunity to think. Now, not getting permission from the parents was wrong, right? I definitely think the parents should have been notified of what the teacher was actually doing. That's one misstep. And if done correctly, meaning I think if the teacher could have collaborated with other officials and even the parents maybe on the correct way to go about doing it. So if done correctly, I agree with this. I think looking at the legal system in our country, looking at situations like this, can create bigger conversations, right? Like especially if you are dealing with a student body that's 75% black. If it's 75% black, now some of the parents were shocked about the teacher presenting this information, and I get it to a degree. But to me, if you're a black parent in America, your kid should see this video anyways, depending on their age, of course. But your kid should have seen this video anyways. Your kid should have seen this video, and there should have been conversation behind this video anyways. You feel me? But for freshmen, yeah, I think you watch the trial because, again, do you show the video of what happened in the class? Maybe if the parents sign off on it. But again, if you're black, you should have seen this shit with your kids anyway. But just watching a trial where it's back and forth, it's them trying to establish what actually happened, presenting facts, prosecution, defense. I mean, this could be a good thing for a kid just to learn how to deliberate, and after certain segments, you guys can talk about it, right? Like I have a non-biased conversation about the situation. So, was the teacher wrong? I mean, yeah, for not getting the parents' permission, but ultimately, I think it was a good idea. You know what I mean? Ultimately, it was a good idea. So, I would allow my freshmen to watch that trial and have this type of discussion. Why? Because I have an eighth grader who we discuss everything that's going on in the country, good or bad. You know what I mean? We have unbiased conversations about the predicament that black people are in this country, and that's something we should all do. You feel me? So, teacher went about the things the wrong way, but this trial is important. The legal system and how black people are treated should always be a topic of discussion for teenagers to adults. You feel me? Now, from what I've seen so far with this trial, because I have a homeboy who I appreciate because he tunes in to my content, and we kind of have back and forth conversations about um, racism and how black people should go about addressing racism, how black people should go about gathering all information necessary before they come with an assessment on something in particular that's happening, right? In this particular trial, we're going back and forth. He's telling me about how prosecutors brought people on the stand, professionals on the stand who kind of spoke to the fact that, George Floyd had drugs in his system, spoke to the fact that, um, the cause of him dying um, had more to do with to do with drugs and different things like that, opposed to what we saw on camera, right? And I did my own research on this trial and how everything is playing out, right? And this is my opinion, family. For one, if George Floyd would have never came in contact with those police officers, he would be alive today, right? That's just flat out. That's the long and short of it. And also, when I look at every day the trial's been going on, I read articles and kind of try to keep abreast with, I don't have the time to actually watch the trial myself, but keep abreast with how things are moving along. And the bottom line, because today, a a medical expert testified, because again, my homeboy is basically saying the long and short of his information was, we don't have all the details. We're blaming this on racism when it may not have been racism. It may have been other things at play, right? The drug dealer who he was in a car with didn't want to be interviewed or didn't want to come down to the precinct. All these things, and this is my thing, right? Because I'm texting with the brother, but I text, but I much prefer to say how I feel verbally. You know what I mean? This is the thing. You can get into semantical arguments about how things could have been different to a degree. But here's the bottom line. If a man steals, or a man uses a $20 bill, uses a fake $20 bill, how are police officers supposed to approach someone when that's the actual crime, right? So you put handcuffs on a brother, you try to put him in the back seat. He says he's claustrophobic. He says he doesn't want to go in the back seat. He's resisting just a little bit. Everything after that was too much. Everything after that was too much. Now, he kneeled on the brother, 8-something minutes. Now, on his neck, to my understanding, the kneeling on his neck was more or less 3 minutes. But here, let me read something that was said by a medical expert. This is one of the articles that I found. And I find it important, man, because at the end of the day, this man died because he came into contact with a police officer that day. That's why he died. Now, you could get into semantics about, did he have drugs in his system? His prior arrest, was he on drugs with his girlfriend? Where was the drug dealer? He's been arrested before. None of this shit really matters. If he didn't come in contact with the cops that day, the brother will be alive. Now, this is what a medical expert had to say. George Floyd died of a lack of oxygen from being pinned to the pavement with a knee on his neck. A medical expert testified at former Officer Derek Chauvin's murder trial Thursday, emphatically rejected the defense's theory that Floyd's drug and underlying health problems was what killed him, right? So, a healthy person subject to what Mr. Floyd was subject would have died. Now, that's an important part of this. He's saying if a healthy person, me or you, whoever's healthy, if you would have been put in that same situation, your ass would have died as well, right? Now, a healthy person subject to what Mr. Floyd was subject to would have died, said prosecution witness Dr. Martin Tobin, a lung and critical care specialist at the Edward Hines Jr. VA Hospital in Loyola University's Medical School in Illinois. And this is the thing, family. My homeboy, it's funny how, I don't know. I just guess as black folks, sometimes we see stuff differently. Like we aren't all the same, right? But to me, I'm always on the side of my people and the history of my people and what we've been through. Now, if you present me evidence that shows one of us died because we tried to kill a police officer, or one of us died because something along those lines, then maybe we can have a conversation. But if you're unarmed, you shouldn't die by the hands of a police officer. I don't care if you're white, green, black. It really don't matter, right? You shouldn't die, because if I, as a civilian, I, as a civilian, if I'm tussling with a nigga in the street and I pin him down and he end up dying, right? I'm going to jail, man. It's funny how the deliberation and how all the legalities and all of this shit come into play when we're dealing with police officers. We know what we've seen on that camera. And as I look at the information from the trial, when my partner send me information, I research and look, maybe I am missing something, right? I'm not beyond reproach. Like, I'm not on this shit where I'm trying to preach to my people about racism because I'm misguided or because the liberal media is leading me in this direction. I'm just using my goddamn eyes to talk about what I see. I'm not afraid to tell anybody around me this is how I feel. You know what I mean? I think sometimes when we are in environments, and this is my opinion, family, when we are in environments where we work in an environment where it's a lot of different kind of people, right? Or we're in a relationship with somebody that's not black, right? I think a lot of these situations causes us to say, okay, I'm gonna be diplomatic in these situations. I'm gonna be diplomatic and not blame things on race, or I'm gonna be diplomatic and be more of a person that's universally trying to encompass everything and include everybody, right? But that's not my personality, family. Fuck that. I'm not attempting to lead black people in the wrong direction, but how can I see something on camera? Now, of course, what happens before is always important, but nothing we've seen before George Floyd actually died, nothing that I've seen excuses the cops' behavior. Nothing I've seen. Because he asked me, hey, do you think black people are going to riot or do any of these things, protest, if the cop is found innocent? You're fucking right, we're gonna protest if the cop is found innocent, right? What are we to do in these situations? Are we in a position to take up arms and go kill one of these motherfuckers? Are we in that position to actually do that? Are we in a position to defend ourselves violently? No, I don't think that's smart. No, well, depending on the situation, shit. But no, we're not in a position to actually do that as a culture. That's my opinion, family. However, we need to do something. We're not going. And something else I would say about that, this isn't a one-off. Like, I can see if we don't get touched by police ever, and then you see a situation like this, maybe you could say, okay, damn, let me break it down. Maybe it's not racism. Maybe it has something to do with something else. Maybe it's the situation. No, all too often we see these type of situations happen. All too often. So am I to think it's a coincidence that we have all these black men, these unarmed black men getting killed by cops? And unarmed Asians don't get killed by cops. Why is this? Unarmed white 16-year-olds don't get killed by the police. To my knowledge, like I always say, send me the link of this happening as much as it happens to us and I'll shut the fuck up. But that's not the case. You feel me? So I'll go on to read just a little bit more. Using easy to understand language to explain medical concepts and even loosening his necktie to make a point, Tobin told the jury that Floyd's breathing was severely constricted while Chauvin and two other officers held the 46-year-old black man down on his stomach last May with his hands cuffed behind him and his face jammed to the ground. Now look, some of these semantic-based arguments I don't really want to have. So my partner even told me, hey, look, because I said, hey, he was pinned to the ground on his neck, 8 minutes and 46 seconds. He says, look, that's a misnomer. It was really 3 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 9 minutes, 12 minutes. Did he die from the white man's knee being on his neck? Yes, right? You can get into semantic. Now, if some of these semantics change things to me, none of this shit changes anything. None of it changes anything. He's dead because a cop put his knee on his back, his neck. That's why he's dead. Why are we trying to justify that? That's why black people, I'm going to be honest, I don't understand that, man. Why would you try to justify this? For what? For what? Who are you trying to, you know what I mean? Whatever. So I'm hopeful. Looking at everything that's going on in this trial, how they're going back and forth, I'm hopeful that this white man's gonna end up doing some jail time. But can we all agree that something needs to happen with the policing in America? Protecting and serving isn't necessarily what we see them do. I read story after story of different incidents where we're treated unfairly by cops, right? I don't even talk about all of them. You feel me? It's always such a plethora of shit. I pick and choose based on um, my emotions and how I'm feeling and how I feel I can present it to you guys. But the shit happens too much, and then one thing, I'm it hits home to me because I grew up in a neighborhood. Now, as an adult, being pulled over by the cops, um, being harassed by police, I'll be honest, as an adult, just living my life, working in corporate America, driving around my city, I haven't experienced that as much. Have I been pulled over and harassed by a police officer? Yes. I've also been pulled over, just to keep it real, and let go by a police officer. I've been pulled over and nothing actually happened, right? He's seen I was all he's seen he could have did some foul shit or took me in or gave me a ticket or any of this, and he chose not to, right? So I'm gonna be contextual and keep it real. That has happened. But the biggest thing is in my neighborhood, in the all black community at that time, the all black community that I grew up in, all the police officers that came in this environment treated everybody like shit. I'm 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, treating us like shit. My brothers, who was older, they were in the street doing different shit they had to do to make ends meet. I will say that. Excuse me. They were treated like shit as well. So to me, I've personally seen how policing in underserved communities take place. I've personally seen it, family. You know what I mean? So all of this, and sometimes we're rioting and doing different shit. For one, we don't know what else to do, and two, this is an ongoing thing. So what is a people to do when they continually find themselves in these situations, right? So I don't want to have a semantical ass argument about different pieces of a case that may be different than how we're viewing it. The bottom line is, if George Floyd would have never came in contact with police on that particular day, he would be alive today. If the police officers would have treated him like a human being instead of a fucking animal, he would be alive today. He says, I can't breathe. He says, if you couldn't breathe, you wouldn't be talking. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? What is the job of a police officer then? You feel me? So fuck all that, man. This cop should get several years in the penitentiary. In my opinion, his accomplices should get the same amount of time. Straight up. If not more, because you sitting there watching. You know what I mean? So fuck all that, man. I'm not gonna deny what my eyes see when it comes to these situations. So Derek Chauvin should be thrown under the goddamn jail, if you ask me. Make an example out of his ass like you do black men in our community. You see what I'm saying? Because again, you want to tell me all these legalities about what's going on in the courtroom. I've seen, and really the law works for whoever they want it to work for. So keep that in mind too. But I've had family members go to court and they get fucked. There's proof. There's no evidence without a shadow of a doubt. I've seen my family members still get railroaded. So we're dealing with crooked cops. We're dealing with a system that doesn't always work for us. How are we supposed to feel? You feel me? So let's go, man. Let's keep moving on here. So the next story, let me see, what do I want to talk about? Oh, so recently